I'd like to call to order the Monday, July 7th, 2025, Huron Board of Education regular meeting. If you could call the board or the roll, please.
Mrs. Henners?
Here.
Dr. Lefay?
Here.
Mr. Rager?
Here.
Mrs. Hartley?
Here.
Mrs. Mask?
Here. If everyone could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Next, we need an approval of tonight's meeting agenda. So moved.
Second.
Mrs. Hartley?
Yes.
Mr. Rager?
Yes.
Dr. Lefay?
Yes.
Mrs. Henners?
Yes.
Mrs. Mask?
Yes, thank you. Item number 3, audience community comments. Is there anyone in our audience this evening that has anything they'd like to address the board? Okay, we will move on.
All right, so on to administrative reports. First we have, I'm going to turn over to Mr. Ayers to recognize our boys track team.
Yeah, so we brought some girls too to recognize. We had a lot of state finalists, participating in the state finals. So first off, I want to thank them for coming tonight. We had a very successful regular season. A lot of meets where we're finishing top 5, top 3, winning, getting league or MVP honors. The Euclid relays. I think Riley got MVP there. I know Joe got a couple MVPs too. So really exciting for our track team. Very successful. And you're the entire season I'm sitting there thinking like, are we going to do it again? Is it going to happen? And sitting there kind of anticipating. Coach and I had a couple conversations, and it got to that point to where SBCs hit and they both went for the first time in school history. Both went at the same time, which was really cool. Kind of ran that meet, and then girls go into postseason, and they have a really good postseason too. They advance a 3,200 meter runner, a 1,600 meter runner, and a 4x2 to the state finals, which is really cool and exciting. And then the boys were very well represented as well. They went SBCs, districts, regional, state, undefeated postseason, didn't lose once, and you're sitting there at win districts, like, okay, that was good, first step, right? Then they win regionals, and it's like, oh my gosh, like this is crazy. And they win state, and I can tell you right now, I know Tim Lamb was down there with me, and we were sitting there, and I swear we jumped 15 feet up in the air about every finish, so it was pretty exciting. So, they're a great group of kids led by an amazing coach, amazing teacher, amazing dad, and I have nothing but great things to say about Coach Lebanon. So I'm going to turn it over to him. He's going to talk a little bit about some of the individual successes of some of these kids, and we'll go from there.
Great. Thank you, Matthew.
First of all, thank you for having us here. I always love an opportunity to brag about them. And yeah, it was definitely an amazing season. I can't even think of all the stuff that happened. I tried to type out a couple things that highlighted, especially the seniors. First of all, just getting to state is really, really hard. So I've said this a few times to our seniors. Have probably heard it a bunch of times, but we've been making a lot of really abnormal things look normal over the last few years, and I don't want to take that for granted. And I just want to kind of point out a couple things individually. I know that she's not here today, but going through the 6 qualifiers for the girls, just to kind of highlight the seniors. Megan Harkerode is going to leave here as a 4-time letter winner, 3-time school record holder, 4-time All-SBC athlete. She was part of 2 SBC team titles, which the girls, there's only 2 other girls, I should say 1 girl here that has been part of both of those, because there's only 3 in the whole school's history. So that's pretty awesome. She was a state qualifier and Academic Ohio. Sam Lesnick is here. She's a senior. Well, I guess she was a senior. Now you're back to being a freshman. She will leave here also as a 4-time letter winner, 7-time school record holder, and 11-time All-SBC athlete. She was part of 2 SBC team titles. She's going to be leave as a 6-time state qualifier, and she also qualified 4 years in a row. 3-time state placer, including a state runner-up in the 4x8. She was also a 2-time national qualifier. And my favorite thing about this is she's a 3-time Academic Ohio. So not only did she make it 4 years in a row, but if she could qualify as a freshman, she would have been a 4-time academic All-Ohio. But it's only a sophomore through senior recognition. And as much as it pains me to say she's going to Ohio Northern, I'm happy for her as a Purple Raider myself. But she had a fantastic career. Really excited to see her go to the next level. And then the last girl, Eliana Cozy, she's also a four-year letter winner, 2-time school record holder, 10-time All-SBC athlete. She was also part of those 2 SBC titles, 4-time state qualifier, also somebody that qualified 4 years in a row. And she's going to be running for College of Worcester. So it's pretty cool to see our kids do well here and then also advance to the next level and keep doing it. So I think we've had, I want to say like 6 or 7 years in a row, we've had kids continue on to the college level. So that's really cool. And one more thing about I'm going to go back to the academic Ohio thing. We took 12 kids, 6 girls, 6 boys, and 9 of the 12 were academic Ohio. So that is, again, I guess maybe it's a teacher's thing, but I just love to see that part of it, because it's very hard to be a non-athlete and still be having a 3.5 GPA. They did that plus all the other stuff that they're doing. So it's just another tip of the cap to them for all the stuff that they do. For the boys, I'm going to start with senior Jackson McNulty. He was a track rookie as a senior. We got him very late, but he was amazing. As you know, Jackson, you can't be in a bad mood around Jackson. He was just like one of the most lovable dudes on the planet. And I've had the pleasure of knowing him since he was in 7th grade, maybe even a little younger from like Young Life stuff, but he's been the same guy. And he's got a little bit taller, but he is a phenomenal person. He's leaving here in his 1 year of track as a 2-time All-SBC athlete, a 2-time state champion for the 4x1 4x2, obviously the team state champion, and then he also was part of the national qualifying 4x1 team. They didn't end up running this year, but they did qualify. And I'll go, I don't think Sage is here, is he? No, Sage. Sage is, I'm going to kind of quickly talk about him just because he was kind of like the forgotten member last year because he didn't score. He ran last year, but he didn't score. I always bring this up, I've said it a couple times, but when I asked him about getting our state championship rings last year, he said, I don't want one this year, I'm going to get one next year. And here we are a year later, and I told him, like, I don't think you know how hard it is to do that. Like, I don't know if we're going to get a chance to do it again. He was one of the reasons why we ended up winning this year because of his 2 performances in the mile and 2 mile. So he also was a regional champion, 3-time district champion, 3-time SBC champion, academic All-Ohio, and that was just this year. So we get him back next year. So and then I only have 2 more. I'm sorry. Joe is here. Joe Schaefer's here. He this year broke the school record in 200 twice, and that record was actually held by his older brother, Connor. He has the district meet record in the 200. He broke the stadium record for the regional meet. He was the SBC meet MVP. He won the 100, 200, and 400. District champion 3 times. Regional champion 3 times. 2-time state champion. He was the runner-up by that much in the 200. And he also finished as an academic All-Ohioan. So, and we get him back for another year. So he was an amazing human as well. Happy to have him back for 1 more year. And the last person that I'll highlight here is Austin Brunon. He's also a new freshman. 4-year letter winner, 11-time school record holder, 5-time All-SBC athlete. He was part of 3 SBC team titles. 4-time state qualifier, 4-time state placer. Every time he went to state, he won. So that's a nice little feather he has in his cap right there. 2-time state champion, obviously. First ever back-to-back team titles. He was a 3-time national qualifier and also an academic All-Ohioan. So again, I could be here for another hour. Everybody else here knows from my banquets I talk a lot. And I know there's a couple of parents up here that have experienced some of those banquets. But yeah, I appreciate, again, you having us here. Other members we have here, we have Sasha Fry. She was part of our 4x2 team, and we get her for 2 more years. And she is another phenomenal human. She is a person that we actually have to tell to stop doing stuff. You can see the boot she has on right now because she does not know when to stop. So it's a great thing mentally, but physically it's obviously want to make sure that she's as healthy as possible. Super excited to have her for 2 more years. So again, thank you. I want to also publicly thank Don Hardy for all of the videoing he does. He is at everything. I don't even know. Do you know how many miles you actually drive in one season? No, a couple thousand. It's got to be. But he has been amazing. It's awesome to just go back to Facebook or YouTube and be able to look back at all the stuff that we've done in the last couple of years. So again, thank you for having us. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, do you want a picture with, you want it with the red background?
Really black.
I think we should do it that way, because that way it won't work. Yeah. Come on, Grant, you're part of the board.
I don't, we get up or not?
Yep.
Yeah, Grant.
Part of the team.
Yeah, it's all purpose. Yeah.
Do you wanna, like, sit in front of them, or?
I
How do you wanna do this?
Do you want to hold it down?
Okay, can I hold it?
Those are the
Okay. Let's just, we'll go in between them.
Where's the black shirt? I'm dressing for the board meeting. Okay.
Come on, Grant.
Yeah, Grant.
You should be doing we have everybody? Everybody? Yes. Okay.
And honestly, this is most of the mirror we've ever gotten.
Perfect. Oh, Don.
Stay put.
Don.
Yeah. I don't want to be in a picture.
Save you mileage.
One person. Then I'll help you out.
All right, Don.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was thinking, Mike, I was thinking.
That was my good idea.
What's that? One line.
Oh, no.
Thanks, Sam.
I forgot we're going to be some I think our
Next we have Chris Bauer.
Hello, everyone. I hope your guys' summer is going well. We really don't have much to talk about. There's not a ton going on, but obviously Riverfest is this weekend, and I know that the band, cheerleading, and track will be in the parade. That's good representation from the school, but other than that, I don't have much. Obviously, nice job to the track team. It was super fun to be down there. I got a chance to go, so it was great. So.
Thanks, Grant. Okay. All right, well, 2 weeks ago, we had a little, chat about our federal programs money, so, I wish I was in a better place to give you an update on that, but, I appreciate Mike's patience with me the last few weeks and Dr. Chapman's because it has not gone well. So, 2 things, the Department of Ed and Workforce changed platforms. Okay, that's awesome, and it's they don't have all the kinks worked out, to the point where when we did get an allocation for Title I, it is incorrect, including all the formulas for an unbilled freshmen. And it's a placeholder allocation, it's not really a real allocation, so we're like, oh, good time, because how do you plan with that? So, the next communication we got was, here's a placeholder for all the rest of the federal programs, it's half of what you got this previous year. Okay, we can work with that. Until the 11th hour, we got another notification that the feds are withholding all the sub-grants, based on fiscal 25 review. So, okay, so, we still are held to the, July 1 deadline of hitting the button, which did not work correctly, on DEW's part. So, I don't have a good update. Cindy and I were talking today, trying to figure out, salaries and benefits, and I was like, we're gonna have to wait. So, Columbus has told us they're already gonna bounce back all the applications, and that the allocations will be readjusted for Title I. We have no idea when the other, title programs funding is coming, if it's coming at all. So that kind of puts a fork in some other plans and whatnot that we'll have to work through, so. Stay tuned is the best I have, because that's what we're getting on our Monday.
I am so sorry to hear that. But thank you for what you're doing. I mean, really, you and Mike and James, I mean, this has gotta be incredibly frustrating. Is this the first time something like this has happened?
Oh, yeah. So, back in the days, it was, you got your allocations June 1, you had to have everything turned in by July 1. Then it kind of creeped up to like mid-June, and everybody was okay. It's never been like this. I mean, last year I think we had June 16th. You know, we know what we're gonna do, and you kind of guesstimate what your allocation is. And as soon as I saw the Title I allocation, I'm like, I don't think so. That's like way off. So, yeah, so then when we kept getting, I went to a meeting actually up in Toledo on the 25th, and I felt so bad for the for DEW folks, because like their stress level, dealing with all the people's stress, because I mean, we don't get to move the date, it's July 1, it's federal, whatever, and they can't give answers, and I think it came down to, the 11th hour, 59-minute, where they wiped the coding out of the system because it kept erroring for everybody, so that these two could hit the assurances. We couldn't even put in a budget. So, I mean, it's lovely.
So how do you, I mean, I know they've put in placeholders for you, but it's not real amounts, it's just a placeholder. How in the world are you able to plan for what you're going to do in August? I mean, it's,
so the biggest impact right now is, our non-public services, because we, provide that service. It's, and then we also, we pooling with other districts. We do the things like they pick up our kids over there, we pick up the kids over there. We have no idea how much dollar amount that is, so I can't tell our service provider how many hours they're gonna get to work right now. And so they're like, okay, so do I still have a job? And I was like, well, you still have a job, I just don't know how much of one. And that's really a bad, not good feeling to say, right? So, as it's somebody's livelihood. And then, another example would be like our 2A funds we use for professional development. And they told us at the meeting in Toledo, do not obligate anything for next year as even a placeholder. Do not go into contract with 2A funds tied to it. Because, and they must have had an inkling it was coming. So, so what we've done in the past to help with Title I costs is you're allowed to take from 2A and put into 1, so that helps us bridge the, what's not covered. Can't do that, so that's going to hit general fund. So it's just super messy right now, and I just don't like the messiness of it. It's not a Huron thing, it's the whole state of Ohio thing, and beyond, in other fields too. Like it just, my sister works in the health department down in Dayton. You know, her funding was zapped, and it was 2 weeks ago, and she found out yesterday, kind of thing. So, I mean, it's just not us, but it's just a lot of.
I'm sorry. Yeah. I'm really sorry, but thank you for how professionally you're dealing with it. And you can still smile.
There's nothing left. You just like, okay.
So, and it may be, because Mike, I know there was something, I was thinking like, I saw a document that had like federal funds on it. So maybe both of you, but is that the total that we're
That's what's
anticipating,
in there.
or as a placeholder, but we don't know when we'll get it?
I'm sure that's the placeholder amount. And then with everything we're hearing after they do their review on FY25, we'll get some sort of a real allocation. I threw it on there because those are the numbers that are actually in the CCIP for us right now.
Okay.
So I I just figured we'll put it in there. We're not gonna obligate any of the funds to anything, just because I don't want to have to then use general fund. But we'll get it set up like this for now, and then go from there. These came in pretty late. I mean, like Julie was saying, it was really late. I mean, I think at the last board meeting I even told you I didn't have any.
Yeah. Yeah, that was on the June 20th.
Yeah,
Whenever that
we
was.
still didn't, and it wasn't like the next day we got it. It was real close to June 30. And
Oh, IDA was June 30.
yeah,
Right, yeah, we kept logging in. And of course, when everybody's logging into a broken system,
Right.
you can't really get in.
yeah, it didn't. It kept kicking us out. I had a really long email chain with one of our consultants saying, "I can't get in. I can't get this July 1 day." He's like, "No, this is fine. You just go in there and you go to the assurances page, and then you click the assurances, and it's fine." I was like, "No, I don't think you understand. I can't even get to that page."
I'm assuring you that this is not happening.
So this has been a different year for sure.
So these federal funds, they flow through the state. Okay. And so it's the state system, the platform from the state that changed, that is creating barriers to being able to even access the information. But then there's an additional delay somewhere between federal and state in even marking the allocations to put it into the system that doesn't work, that people can't get into. And then you have to turn around by July 1, submit to the state how you will use the federal funds. And so that's all up in the air. I guess my question is, what do we anticipate the impact will be on students, if any? Like, what's a best case scenario? What's a worst case scenario?
Yeah, so the best case scenario would be the money flows, and so we can continue with services. Worst case scenario is the money doesn't flow, but we're not going to necessarily stop services that we provide students in-house. So the general fund will have to pick up that difference until the money flows, and if the money doesn't flow the whole year, it'll have to pick that up. So we'll have to look at that. That's going to impact our 5-year forecast. That will come up in November. But ultimately, in knee-jerk reaction land that our federal government has put us in right now, we don't want to make a knee-jerk reaction that's going to negatively impact kids without fully knowing, because we could wake up tomorrow or next week and the funds are there and we're kind of back to status quo. So it would have to be weathered by our general fund. But what I think we need to be mindful of is not allocating monies that we don't have for things that we don't necessarily have to spend it on, right? So professional development for staff, it's important, and you have to do it consistently in order to always stay on the cutting edge of instruction and learning. But if we have to pause on that as far as buying a service, then we'll lean on our experts in-house and have them do some PD for peers and things like that. We'll lean on North Point that we'll probably be looking to fill some gaps for districts, all the districts that they serve. The other would be like the non-pubs that the money flows through us and we pay the service provider to provide service. Our general fund should not pick that up because that's a service through the non-pub. So the question is, would that diocese pick that up, or would they say pause the service? So there may be an impact on those kids that get that service, because I don't think our public dollars should be funding that. So it's really just continue to monitor, wait and see, and yeah, we're going to have to start making some tough decisions here in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, and just, I don't remember if this list is under the public section, but for right now, it's $548,000. So it's not an insignificant sum. And and then I'm thinking on our conversation with the county budget and the Blue Ribbon Commission, which I know we'll probably talk about more in your report, but they're all about like the local taxpayer. How can they save them money? Talking about school districts. Hey, maybe you shouldn't collect as much. These are the things that we've been talking about at the state level, not even talking about the federal level, of all of a sudden, if $548,000, the bulk of which is for special education, that's, we have to provide that education because, like you said, we have to minimize the impact on students, being mindful of the impact for the local tax base, because that's all they're doing, is shifting it. If those federal funds don't come in, we've got to make it up from the local tax base because we have to serve students. So, okay, thank you.
Julie?
Thanks, Julie.
Not bad news, it's an opportunity.
Yep. Just checking. Okay, so end of the fiscal year. Revenue projections, we were over a little bit on revenues. All funds were at 107. General fund were at 105. I think a lot of that was back in November, like when we actually established those. Even before that, we didn't really know what the new valuations were going to be. So obviously it came in a little higher. So that's the reason for the uptick there. And then expenditures, we were in the low 90s, 91 and 92% for all funds. So that's a good thing. It does align pretty closely with the 5-year forecast that was presented in May. So all the balances are real close to that. So I'm pretty confident in that document. Donations, $7,675 for a few different scholarships, the 8th grade field trip, and the boys tennis team. C was the federal funds. If you have any more questions on that, let me know. But it's a little bit of a dumpster fire at this point. But those are the amounts that are in there that that we currently have set up for us. D is the transfers and advances. There's some that are transferred back to the general fund, and then a lot of them are for like the grant funds that had a negative balance at the end of June, transferring back to the two that I wanted to talk about for sure with athletics. Is it just the transfer of $24,639.06? And then food service was higher than I was anticipating. It was $139,026.50. We didn't get our June payment in June. It's coming in July. However, I don't know that the payment is going to be as high as I was originally anticipating. So I will get you that number when I have it. But as of right now, that's the number that was transferred to food service to zero us out for the year. On the flip side of that, we could either transfer that back if we wanted to, some of it, or we can leave it in there because I'm sure by the end of next year we're going to be transferring money back to food service. So I'll let you know that number, and we can maybe have a discussion on that later.
Like, where does that payment come from for food service? The one that's delayed until July?
Federal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just checking, just verifying.
Yeah. Some other updates. James and I went to that Blue Ribbon Commission meeting on June 30th. It was only about a 40-minute presentation that they did, and then there were some question and answers. They covered a lot of different. There was an article in the paper. Really, what they're kind of saying is like, hey, we think school districts should consolidate with each other to save money. So honestly, it wasn't really what I was anticipating them coming out with. So it was a little bit different. But that's kind of. I sent you guys the report too. It's in there, and it's really long. But then
209 pages.
Yeah. The education section isn't terribly long, and then if you go down to the bottom where the appendix are, like it just says, what was it, James? It was administrator count per school.
Yeah, student enrollment. Yeah. And administrator count for the last about 10 years.
Yeah.
For all the districts in Boone County.
Yeah, so it's in there. Not what I expected, but the report's out. So.
Are they suggesting a county-wide school system by chance?
They didn't really have the suggestion of anything other than, we think you guys could save money if you consolidated with each other.
Well, I think if you go in and you read the education part, they don't really come out and say that, but that's what they're implying.
Right.
If you read that part of the report.
I did.
I'm not surprised one bit. Right. Yeah. But I'm just not surprised that they did.
They say which school should consolidate which school.
No.
I'm sure they think we should all consolidate, just be one big happy county. Because that works really well in other states, like where I have family.
Because I think, Mike, you had made the comment when we met for agenda review that, they've done this Blue Ribbon Commission or committee for half a year. And I think your kind of take on it was they said, okay, well, here's all the information. You guys go figure it out.
That's kind of what it was like.
Yeah.
It's what it felt like to me,
Yeah.
at least. Even at the meeting, I was like, they're not really. I mean, they're offering. I guess in some form they're offering solutions, but for you to take and run with, not. I guess, like I said, it wasn't really what I thought the report was going to be about.
Well, it's certainly an interesting thing when they are suggesting that political subdivisions dissolve themselves and cease to exist as a means for potentially saving money, but not positive. The savings are there based on what I see in other states.
Yeah, I agree. I've tried to run through some of that myself. I'm like, I don't really know where this large sum of savings would be, but yeah. So that's their report. The last thing I have is DeWine had 67 line item vetoes. The biggest one here for us is it removed the restrictions related to the carryover balance. and the fixed sum levy, so those won't be included in the 20 mil floor. So as of right now, I don't think we need to hit the panic button on anything, but I don't know what's coming next. So we'll keep an eye on all that, but that was a good sign. What it will do is it'll have us have some more conversations, finance committee and things about the transfers. We wouldn't necessarily have to transfer to keep our carryover balances lower. But like you guys know, we have facility needs and things, so maybe that'll be something we still look at doing. So there will be further conversations on those items.
I think to kind of see where the puck is headed, though, you have a new governor who's set to be elected right shortly, who may have a different take than Governor. So probably just something to watch.
And I don't know if, I think House does have, they might still have like a veto majority, like they can override. But I think they'd have, there's a time span, they all went home to their districts, and there's a time span, I think, by which they'd have to reconvene on their summer break if they wanted to do that. So I don't know. There's been some talk about it, but I haven't heard any action.
Before I get to my agenda items, the only other, we just met 2 weeks ago, but the only other item not yet discussed is I just want to thank Stacy Hartley and Chris for going to that county budget commission meeting. So we met with the county budget commission representatives. I felt like they were productive conversations about their indicators of what they're looking at for different school districts, what potential legislative changes would come. As discussed here, some of those vetoes stopped some of those conversations. But it was a good opportunity for us to share our story as far as what we're trying to do with facilities, continuing to adjust staffing based on students' enrollment, student needs. And so I just want to thank you two for being there, and then recognize that county commission exists, and there was potential for them to have a little bit more teeth in their purpose for schools. But at this point, it's been vetoed out, so that was good. On the consent agenda item, just a few. We have personnel. So first is resignation of one of our teachers. She's returning to our alma mater, so wish her the best there. Reemployment of 2 teachers that retired at the end of last school year. So Katie Mischler and Ingrid Ritzler. And then some additional summer services based on submissions that they did after the last board meeting cutoff date. And so those are there. And then Megan Hill, returning to Huron alumni, and she'll be our next social studies teacher at the high school level. So she's here today in the audience, and we welcome her. Personnel classified items. We have a resignation for a year from now from one of our maintenance workers, and then we have reemployment of a retired bus driver coming back for next school year. And then supplemental. These are supplementals that have been previously filled. So this would be the last quarter supplemental for football drill team, the Tigerettes. She's coming in as a volunteer, and then potentially going to advance to a paid position, but right now volunteer. And then Amy Johnson taking on that junior class advisor that Darius Schaefer left from. So that's it for the consent agenda. And then any other questions?
Great. So, sorry, I forgot my computer at home.
Yeah, you're
So I'm following along here.
I just wanted to say Megan was the ball girl on the basketball team back in 95, 96. Yes. And so Megan has been serving Huron Tigers since I think before she was in school. So welcome home. You're welcome. Yeah.
That's awesome. Right. Nope, I'm good. So we are at, we need the consent agenda. So, thank you. Okay. Any further questions or discussion? Okay.
Mrs. Hartley,
Yes.
Dr. LaFay,
Yes.
Mr. Rager,
Yes.
Mrs. Henners,
Yes.
Mrs. Math.
Yes. Right.
Congratulations.
Yes, congratulations. Right.
All right, now, excuse me. The items in number 9 are recommendations from the superintendent that are outside the consent agenda. Consent agenda, as a reminder, is for expeditious meeting of typical things. So these two items are not typical. So I'd like to just talk a little bit about this woodland sheltered walkway. So one factor for this is that there's an anonymous donor who'd like to make a donation for this. That would show up in the August agenda. And then the other is that when the community facility group was doing their work and the current state subcommittee went and toured the different buildings, they noted that, you know, it's a long walk from the curb drop off, that parents drop off, to the building, and that's a potential safety issue. And we're like, yes, we know, but we can't just move the road closer or the building closer. So we explored, Mr. Carter, Mr. Limberos and I, we explored options for creating a safer walkway. And so this sheltered walkway would provide both sides and top shelter so that wind and rain and snow won't be impacting the kids. Also, then at the end of the day, instead of having them line up in the building, which then takes time for them to walk towards the curb, they can be lining up in the sheltered walkway. So that is the purpose of that. And again, it's going to be subsidized through an anonymous donation. So any questions about that? We're looking for a recommendation.
Question, it's just the name on the invoice. It sounds like maybe is it like a prefab type thing? What I'm guessing is like without firm capital plans, if it's something that like that part of the building gets changed, is it something that maybe could be relocated to, obviously there'd be a labor cost, but is it components that could be moved if that changes?
Yeah, so this vendor that we're looking to purchase from, they have a contract with the city of Sandusky doing the bus stops, those covered bus stops.
Okay.
So that's one product that they put out. And then another would be the cart corrals that you see at all the large grocery stores and whatnot. They do that product as well. So yeah, it's a prefab. It'll come in pieces. They'll put it together. It's going to be on the concrete sidewalk from the curb up to the building, but not touching the building, not affix the building. And in some of the conceptual renditions of renovation at Woodlands, that would be an area that wouldn't be touched. So if it ultimately is, then that could be removed and moved. So it's going to be affixed, like with bolted down to the concrete of the existing sidewalks. But yeah, it's one of those that it potentially won't have any impact on renovation or, you know, add-ons, additions to that property. Yeah, good question.
Just a quick question on, are we required to bid out a project like that, or?
Yeah,
Okay.
so I checked with legal counsel on that, and they said because of the security element of the project, there is an ORC exception to the bid project, and so that resolution's on there for the board to review, but that was done through support with legal counsel.
Do they install too, or is it our staff?
They'll install too. Yes. Yep.
Just material.
Installation is the second item on the invoice.
Oh, I see. Thank
Yep.
you. I missed that.
Ship UPS ground if their labor costs.
I just saw the shipping. I said, "Move on."
Thanks. Do we have to take action on
Yeah,
it, or is it an
yeah.
information point?
No, this would be action.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is recommended.
Okay, so we need a motion to accept the proposal for the woodland sheltered walkway.
So move.
Second.
Any further questions, discussion? Okay.
Mr. Rager, Mrs. Hartley,
Yes.
Dr. LaFay, Mrs. Henners, Mrs. Mast.
Yes, thank you.
Please extend our gratitude to the donor
for sure.
that. That's very generous. Really generous.
And then 9B is, so working with the teachers union, we've been talking with them about how we'd like to enrich student experiences before, after, during school. What are ways that we can enrich? And through those conversations, we're working on having teachers pitch or submit proposals for new supplementals or stipends. And but in that conversation, they also brought up, you know, we have some in the collective bargaining agreement that exist that haven't been filled for a long time. If we have people interested in doing those, can that be part of the conversation? So I said, course it can, right? So looking at the three on the list here, so Biddy Cross Country and Track, Middle School Power of the Pen, and then Woodland Special Choir. I would say these, what's that?
That's great. Yeah.
Yes, I would say these are three supplementals that aren't duplicates of existing supplementals. These are going to be enrichments, new experiences for kids, or restored experiences for kids. So what the recommendation here is asking is just for the board to say, yeah, we want to restore those three supplementals. Then it'll have to get posted for all the members. They'll submit interest. We'll interview and select the most qualified candidate to fill those supplementals. But it's on this list because there's someone in the association that says, I'm interested in that. I've talked with Julie, the principals, and said, is this a value to our kids? And it came back, yes. So that's the purpose of this recommendation.
So I'd like to make a motion to recommend the supplementals of Biddy Track, Power of the Pen, and Special Choir.
Yeah. Second.
Mrs. Mast,
Yes.
Mrs. Hartley,
Yes.
Dr. LaFay,
Yes.
Mr. Rager,
Yes.
Mrs. Henners.
Yes.
Item 10 for board discussion. Item A is first reading of policies. So there's two policies this month. The first, I'll talk about, I guess, in reverse order, is the policy relating to promoting parental involvement. So the board just had a first reading and then passed it in May. And it was based on legislative changes, legislative actions. And after we approved it, or after the board approved it, OSBA sent out a, hey, we've refined it to be more aligned with the legislation. I still think there are some parts of it that are maybe unclear or overly broad, but they're recommending this policy be revised again. So that's what's in front of the board tonight, based on those legislative directives. And then the second one is policy about artificial intelligence. So this is not required by legislation or Ohio Revised Code. It is starting the conversation for what are our expectations, what are our expectations for students and staff use of artificial intelligence, how are we going to embed it into learning, what is going to be appropriate uses, what are not going to be appropriate uses. We did get some input from the committee, the technology committee. We got, obviously, guidance from OSBA. Do I think this is a perfect policy? No, but I think it gets us started. It gets the conversation, and it makes it clear to everyone that there's recognition that artificial intelligence exists, and it does make an impact on learning, instruction, and operations of the school. So I anticipate when students and staff get back and we start digesting policy, there will probably be ideas for refinement, and those will come to the board. But this is the first reading. We could have the second reading in action in August, so we're hitting the ground running for the new school year. But those are those two policies.
So questions on the policy? Should we make a motion first before questions, or?
There's no motion needed, so it's just discussion.
Oh, that's right. It's
Yep,
just a read.
yep.
Okay. So the development of the policy, can you talk me through that? I say it says OSBA sample, but we're not struck through. Is that just because we wouldn't obviously adopt that language? in
Yeah,
the
correct. So
policy?
the sample part will come out.
Okay. And do you think that they did it because I know that Ohio Department of Education and Workforce has, what did they assemble? They have an AI education coalition that works in conjunction with Innovate Ohio. So I know they had some recommendations on there for local schools as well as for higher ed and state or something, I can't remember. So is there, I think, and one of those groups, one of the recommendations was for the local schools to like convene a task force. So I understand like tech committee looks at it. Does tech committee, is it an internal group? Are there any folks from industry sectors that are on that?
No, so the tech committee is made up of certified staff, teachers,
Okay.
administrators, and then our tech staff. So tech staff, they have a pulse on like tech
Sure.
things and how that integrates into school. but no like outside group like from the state or from a county or anything like that.
Yeah, and I was thinking more because the way that the state of Ohio frames it, and the way I think we're preparing students for life outside of K-12. And what I'm thinking is for folks in application, I know Stacy and I have talked in the past, like she's at a large enterprise, I'm at a large enterprise, and we use Microsoft. What are the tools we use? What are the performance tools we use? For me, how does higher ed, how is higher ed wrestling with it? But I think it might be interesting if we have any capacity for it, whether it's possible to add some folks out in the workforce, or if it's something that maybe through BAC, maybe it's a group for BAC where they already have people in workforce in there. Because if we're trying to prepare the students, like what are the applications? In what ways is it actually being used? So that we can kind of focus on those skill building.
I think that's a good. I like that idea, getting the business perspective.
However it looks, yeah.
Because we are developing students for workforce readiness,
Mm-hmm.
and so bringing it to the BAC is a good starting place, and then from there might be someone that it resonates with. Also with our educational partners at BGSU Firelands, they might have someone that is kind of on the cutting edge of that, and I do know that with CCP courses. Those courses have like the institution's code of conduct and everything else that they have to follow as well. So, so making sure that what we're doing is at least in alignment with what they're expecting. So when our kids go off, whether it's college or work, we're building them to that. So yeah, I like that idea. And as a chairperson of the BAC, I can get that on the agenda. So that's no problem.
And I think when Mike and I talked, and you were joined us by phone, like that day, the hospital came out with a huge policy on AI use, very specific for all sectors of the hospital. So it was, kind of interesting that even, our sector in healthcare is coming out with policies for it.
Yeah, there's a big after the state, which was interesting because it kind of looks like the Innovate Ohio work was being driven maybe by the former lieutenant governor, because when he left, it stopped, and there's no press releases, there's no news announcements or anything, which is concerning to me because that is a field that it's not just every month or every week, it's every day there's something new, and there's a large concern around the large scale models and that they've exhausted all of the English-speaking formats, and so now they're really looking at what are additional data sets they can acquire. So it's really looking at even collecting biometric data from people when they think they delete their chats, that their chats are actually being saved and archived and used to data mine. So like, there's those kinds of implications too, the same way that we've had to look at the platforms and comply with state law. There's that thing going on. So I could see healthcare, like especially with OpenAI, there's a separate thing that they're doing with biometric data collection.
Yeah, and I would say, like educators, we still have that Senate Bill 29 standard where we can't just be going to open source information, loading up our student or staff information. So we need to be mindful of that. And I know we have the Magic School AI. That's a tool, and it's approved through that Senate Bill standard. So we need to make sure staff are using that and not other free versions that are potentially pulling in school data that isn't appropriate. So there's a lot to learn related to artificial intelligence. I also don't want to hear teachers going around being like, don't do anything with it. Because I think if we do nothing with it, then when kids go off to that next level, whether it's work or college, they're going to then face the struggles there. And I'd rather they face them here in school where it's a safer environment and lower stakes, still critical, but lower stakes than workforce, and now you're out of a job. So yeah, I think there's a lot to do with that. And I know we've been talking about like staff PD at fall. We have those 2 staff PD days. There's going to be a lot of focus on artificial intelligence and appropriate and inappropriate uses. Coaching our teachers so they can coach the kids, and we'll all be better. Yep.
I think the opportunity we talked about this, James, is I think building by building to be specific with students, parents, and teachers on like what is and isn't permitted, If we are permitting it, is there like a citation guide? I know that's an approach that a lot of schools are using. That like, okay, if you use it, kind of, we'll go back to encyclopedia for those of us, right? Like we weren't allowed to use the encyclopedia, but if you used a book, you had to explain like what you cited, right? And so that someone could go back and make sure that your citation wasn't just a lift and shift, right? So, you know, our like kind of a more practical guidance so that I think our kids and teachers are on the same page. I also think, you know, on the teacher's side, like what tools are they using to identify AIUs, and how are we making sure that that's appropriate, right? Because it's a big, there's a lot of tools out there, some down to being able to see keystroke to keystroke what kids are writing, deleting, right, and that sort of thing. And is everybody on the same page with, you know, with all of that information? So I do think we probably have some work to do building by building in very practical terms. Probably with elementary kids, it might be easy, like, don't need it, right? But as we start to shift up to, you know, more advanced learning, like how do we just give kids clear guidelines and teachers clear guidelines on what is and isn't permitted?
Fully agree, 100%. And consistent across all classrooms. Uh, 10B, investigation update. So I know in May, the May 19th board meeting, the board approved an outside private investigator to look into allegations, complaints of allegations of wrongdoing. The information has been shared with them as far as the content of the complaints. They're working through it. I know that a couple things. One, it said that they're approved for up to 80 hours of service, and they'll bill us after the investigation is complete. They have not reached out to my office asking for additional hours because it says that, you know, additional hours pre-approved by the client or designee. They have not reached out for additional hours. I also know that in that agreement it said 40 turnaround 45 days. So if you're doing calendar days, that's July 3rd. If you're doing work days, that's next Friday. So the contract wasn't specific if it's calendar days or work days.
Calendar days.
What's that?
Then it's calendar
Then
days.
it is. Yeah, you're probably right. So again, though, that was an estimated time range, not an exact. I do know that they've reached out for me. The investigator has reached out to me asking to coordinate meeting space for interviews. So I'm anticipating that those interviews are happening. But other than that, they haven't shared anything because I think that's part of the nature of an outside investigator. They're not going to share things until they're complete.
Notice the contract too said, because our meeting was the 19th, and I think it said it would start on or about May 19th. So we don't, you know, we could have had lag time of, I don't know, a week or so before. I don't know when they actually started and you started working with them and they were actually actively collecting information.
It's all flowing through legal counsel. So, you know, what I gave to legal counsel, they might have got to a day or two later. So, right. Yeah. So, but that's what I have.
Right. So I guess on that item number, we'll wait to hear from legal counsel from if we need to amend any days or hours or.
Correct. Yeah. So, so if they called tomorrow and said, "Hey, we're going to need another 10 hours," the contract says that the designee can award that. So that would be Mike or I. So it doesn't like because our next regular meeting until August 18th, right?
Yeah.
So we wouldn't want to wait that long to come back and say,
Right.
"Yeah, go ahead."
Yeah.
So, so yeah, that part we'll keep it moving on that end.
Okay. Right. Next, we need to do our final treasurer and superintendent evaluations, and I had Mike list them separately, just for completeness. So I guess we will start with treasurer. Does everyone have a copy of these? So do you want me to read the description under each key accomplishment, and then we can have discussion on that?
So I think since we're doing this in public, it would be for the benefit of people who
Okay.
don't have it. in front of
Right.
me.
So, all right, so expected key accomplishment number 1, to create and present the board with the detailed analysis of the district's current financial picture, including identification of key opportunities and threats, and recommend strategic financial priorities and actions to implement for the next 3 years to achieve financial stability. Yeah, Mike, you
First,
wanna
like talk about.
do you,
Oh.
do you have anything you'd like to say about that?
Yeah, no,
Anything you'd
I
like to add, or
sure. I mean, coming from the community school world into this world, I know there's a lot of similarities. And I found there's a lot of differences as well. So I think honestly, as far as that goal goes, I think I've learned a lot, and I know that there's a lot still left to learn. I will say in the last 12 months though, I've picked up quite a bit, and I can tell you even from like closing out the fiscal year this year. Last year, I mean, I was having a kid at the same time, so there's some other added pressures. But I will say, like, it went much more smoothly this year and everything. So I can see that with time, it'll get better, and I hope to continue to get better.
I would jump in and say noticeably, and I think even when you were coming in, some of the stuff was still waterlogged and, you know, unfounded, and so like hurdles, and I would say it's been very smooth.
I think the white paper, it's not specific to just a general plan for the next 3 years, a strategic, but it came about because of, you know, a change in the dynamic, which the finances, as we're hearing in the meeting, are incredibly dynamic at, you know, the local level, at the state level, and at the federal level. So I think the white paper that you and James worked on for review by the finance committee and then the board was really helpful, explaining and being something that was, I think, really accessible for folks, and especially for the board. And then, you know, as a way to kind of think about the strategic priorities of the board that was established by the district, and to think, like, how do these things align? So how are we showing up with where we're going to invest our funds in there?
have anything they want to add on this number 1?
I think Mike is, meeting this one in my opinion because the work, the improvements since last year too on all the reports, the work with the finance committee, and then how he has a good handle on the 5-year forecast now too. I think is especially with all the, as Stacy mentioned, the changing finance things. He's been a good guide for us to, like, maybe if we look at things and the ways, taking that under guidance of what might be changing at the state levels or funding. It's been good conversations in finance committee. So.
That is a perfect segue to the next one.
I know.
So key accomplishment number 2, utilize our finance committee for community partnerships and communication to build trust and transparency with external stakeholders. What did you want to talk about the finance committee, Mike, and how you're utilizing their?
Yeah, I don't know. I know you guys used to have a finance committee, and then it kind of took a pause for a little while. So, I mean, getting it started back up, I wasn't really sure what to expect exactly, but I think after the first few meetings, we were able to kind of hit the ground running, and there was a lot of changes, like you guys said. So we were able to run that through a committee that involved, admins and community members, and I think it's good. I think the community members we have are good as well, because I think they're influential in the community, and they can actually get what we talk about there, and if people have questions, they can relay that message well. But we got it started back up. It's still developing, it's still growing, and after everything that's happened recently, we'll probably have to set it at our next meeting soon. So
I school finance is complicated. It's like the opposite of intuitive, and I think it's a kind of a tricky balance to be, intelligent enough to understand it all, but then also be able to teach it to a community that really fits the bill for it in a way that's not condescending. And we've had that, historically we've had difficulty finding that balance. So, and I appreciate Mike, like, I think you find that balance in communicating to the board, but then also, kind of breaking it down in a way that's understandable, but, not in like a condescending or impatient sort of way. So I think that's really, really important. I don't think we've oversold anything. I don't think we've undersold anything in terms of like the state of things, right? We're not sounding the panic alarm if we're not panicked. And I think the community appreciates that.
Key accomplishment number 3, collaborate with the Community Facility Committee to develop and implement a comprehensive master facility plan aligned with the district's strategic financial objectives, ensuring long-term financial sustainability and effective resource allocation.
So closely with you on it. I don't know if you have your own things to say, but it's just been really impressive how much, I can just say this preemptively, going over for James too, like how much you guys have put into it and just always been there. And again, numbers are hard to explain, and that facility committee was quite large, and so there'd be different members there at different times, and always showing patience, reiterating things, and repeating, quite frankly.
Have anything you'd like to contribute to this? Mike, do you have anything you want to share?
Yeah, I mean, I think when I look at the facility committee and everything we did, it's going to tie in real closely now, especially with the finance committee as well, and then moving forward with establishing this 070 fund and then the PI funds and things. I think it's all kind of connected there. So just continuing to work on those for future facility plans and where we plan to go from here.
Great. Anyone else have anything in that section they want to add?
We need to do the actual rating.
I mean, we can. I mean, I guess I figured from the conversations, everyone felt that these were on target.
That's for mid. For the final, we have to use different language.
Well, what language would you like to use then?
There's exceeded or met, and I think all
Okay.
of them are at least met.
Okay.
I guess interested if somebody feels like there's some of them that, and this gets into like philosophy too, how people do their own performance management. Some folks like to go for the highest number for everything. Others are more like, yep, doing a great job, and that's here, and save it for like, nope, absolutely could not be any better at this. So I guess that's a point of conversation to move on.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I subscribe to that latter philosophy, right? Like we know that you guys are professionals, so I think there's a baseline expectation that you do a pretty good job, right? That would be our meeting our expectation. I think it's when we're like, whoa, like that was really good, and I think Beth, to the extent Beth talked about like the master facility plan, like that would be something visual, staying late, working with the community, asking good questions, sometimes having to go back to the drawing board. So I guess I'd propose, and by all means, co-close on it, that I would do needs for 1, needs for 2, and exceeds for 3.
You're good? Okay. Alrighty. So we'll move to leadership standard number 1. Participate as an integral member of the district leadership team. Work with the district superintendent and board of education with input from other stakeholders to review, develop, align, and implement policies and procedures. Participate with the district superintendent and the board of education in the development and implementation of the district's strategic plan. Establish and manage sound fiscal practices to support the educational process. Lead and manage personnel under direct supervision of the treasurer. Support the effective use of data.
For the communities, I guess, benefit these like points. These are things that we developed like a state model on evaluations. So if they sound a little boring, this is where we get them. But I think they're pretty comprehensive of all the things. And Mike has a staff. He's lucky. I think he inherited a staff that's been with us a long time and does an excellent job. Even in the face of a lot of change over the last few years, right? So we probably owe them this rating as much as anyone else for being a part of your onboarding, right?
Absolutely.
And doing such a great job. But by all accounts, you know, the first year's been a good one, and relatively no news is good news on the personnel front coming from the treasurer's side of things.
Mike, I know there's like a wide range of things that are six different points in here that are different. How about for you? Are there any that you feel like you really enjoy, or you really hit your groove in those? Are there any in there that you're like, I'd like to continue like honing my skills in that area?
Oh yeah, like in general.
In looking at these points within the leadership, what if you have it?
No.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I one thing I look at when I read it, I look at the support the effective use of data. So like, really, one thing I want to really improve on are board reports. Like I feel like when I got here, I kind of did what I used to do, and it was kind of boring, and it's still kind of boring. I give you the cash summary and all this stuff, but really taking some of our data and kind of breaking it down a little bit more, making it a little bit more detailed, even if it's quarterly. Just to get a little bit, we do the 5-year forecast every 6 months, but maybe in between there, giving a little bit better breakdown of that. So, I mean, that's actually something I enjoy, and that's something I really want to like improve on, I think, for myself. Working with, honestly, all the admins, even when I first got here, they were all super welcoming, and it's been really great working with everybody. So that's been
Do we want to go ahead and then do the rating for this one while we're here? I mean, I would say it's a meet.
Yeah.
It's a meet expectations. Mm-hmm. Okay, let's move on to number 2, financial management. Collect, analyze, and interpret financial data for budgeting, forecasting, labor relations, and decision making. Effectively manage district financial accounts, including cash, budgetary, debit service, revenue, and grant management. Demonstrate knowledge, performance, and accuracy of standard accounting practices and auditing procedures. Demonstrate appropriate transparency and accurate financial reporting. Demonstrate knowledge of and compliance with state and federal laws. Yeah.
Probably an awkward conversation if you want, right? But like,
Yeah.
We'll go on to number 3. Facilities, property, and capital assets management. Acquire and maintain capital and tangible assets. Secure financing for capital projects and master facility planning. Develop and monitor risk management practices to protect district resources. Provide financial oversight and analysis of fiscal implications that may affect district support services. Thanks. Communication. Yep. Demonstrates competence in transparent communication of financial reports to all stakeholders. Communicate effectively and openly while demonstrating a willingness to collaborate with internal stakeholders. communicate effectively and openly while demonstrating a willingness to collaborate with external stakeholders. I will just say, Mike, I think you do a fantastic job of communicating this to the board. Your little blurbs you give us before the meetings that outline are so helpful. You know, to those of us that aren't financial minded, it helps make it readable and understandable. So I really appreciate that. And the times that, you know, we've been able to see you when we've had, you know, more public here or anything, you communicate very well. It's really refreshing. So appreciate that.
And I think what's important about the communication that I find is, you know, because we get a lot of, I mean, there's the news, there's OSBA sends us financial updates and things, but just because something comes out of Columbus, that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to affect us. So I find it very helpful when you're working through and you're discerning, like, this is going to have an impact on this, and this is going to impact us in this way. Because that is not, so I don't have the knowledge of that. So I really appreciate that you make that very accessible for us and kind of highlight, like, where do we need to be focusing our attention? What do we need to be following? And what actions can we be taking to help, you know, improve the outcomes for the district?
I have received most.
Okay. And then we'll move on to number 5, professionalism. Understand, uphold, and comply with professional ethics, including the Licensure Code of Professional Conduct for Ohio Educators and the Ohio Ethics Laws. Model and expect fairness, honesty, and consistency in the performance of duties. Maintain compliance with applicable local, state, and federal laws, rules, and regulations, and district policies and procedures. Maintain a strong commitment to continuous professional learning. Collaborate with peers for the advancement of the profession.
Well, like demeanor wise, Mike, I think folks are comfortable communicating with you, like your just cheap seat, like your peer administrators, you know, to the extent the boosters. I know the board. Like if I feel like I have a question, you know, you're responsive, and I have confidence in the answer that you give us. So I mean, obviously you have to do the things you have to do by law. So you know, good job. But like table stakes, but that like next level of, I think people being able to trust you to say, you know, say what you mean and what you say. Especially, you know, coming out of the gate the first year, and that's like kind of super challenging on the financial side, right? Like every day is a new adventure.
Yeah.
You know, we appreciate you kind of keeping us up to speed in a clear, but then also just like even keel. I think if I had to pick a word, even keel would probably be, you know, in the turbulence that is like the state of school financing, it's really, really important to have somebody who's even keel. Because it is what it is. I mean, at the end of the day, whatever the cards are, we'll have to figure out how to play them. So we're saying to you on that, but we appreciate that.
And I just appreciate, you know, if you're asked a question, you're very honest if you say, I don't know the answer to that, but I'll find it out.
Hey.
And I like that. I
Yeah.
like that someone is able to admit that I don't know, but I'll find out the answer. So I commend you for that. Not everyone's able to do that. You know,
That's funny because that's exactly what I was gonna when Stacy said that, because if we're gonna model that we are a learning organization, like we acknowledge like none of us has all the answers to everything, even if it seems like maybe I should know that, but I don't know that, and I'm gonna be honest about it, but I'm gonna find out and I'm gonna tell you. So I think it's good because it models for everybody that we don't have all the answers, or we make mistakes, and you know we're gonna push forward and do what we can.
I try not to BS or anything like that. So if I don't know it, I'll let you know, and I'll find out.
Maybe it's two finance committee members. I don't think you can get away with much. Yeah. Pretty sharp cookie. I was brought in as pretty clear too.
yes. Agree?
Or who can also communicate extremely well.
Yeah, not everybody's wired. Like their brains aren't wired. You know, usually what wires you to be good at math and finance as an essay. Sounds good.
That is done.
Thank you guys. I appreciate it. I appreciate you hiring me 18 months ago. I've really enjoyed it here, and just thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Do you have James' evaluation from mid? I just want to make sure I have the right one because this is.
Well, I don't have anything that is like marked up.
Okay.
I'm
Almost positive. I mean, do you have your evaluation form from from midterm January when we did it in January?
like a signed copy.
From that, I have a letter that you,
Right.
but that's all I have is the letter.
Okay. I have the one that I'm pretty sure I have the right one because I think it just had the wrong date on it.
The midpoint. This was the midpoint, I think. Okay. So the goals are on there. I mean, I don't have it marked, but like I don't have a signed copy.
I have it. I just want to make sure I have the right.
We don't have all the answers right now, James.
Apologies. Yeah, I just. Right, and I went back to get it, and I'm like, where is this?
You can use that if you
Yeah,
want.
this is not the same one.
Okay, just
Okay,
use that.
I'm gonna use yours.
Yeah.
Okay, all
I
right.
have a lot of irrelevant notes on mine.
That's okay. All right. So we will start with expected key accomplishment number 1. Strengthen alignment across buildings, departments to improve interdependent functions within the district. James, would you like to speak to that?
Sure. I provided you that written summary. Do you
Mhm.
want me to just read from that? Or?
Sure.
Okay.
I mean, however you would like to do it.
That's fine. So I wrote that continue to uphold the values of the hashtag One Huron with district-wide decision-making, reallocated resources for instructional enrichment and student benefit with the examples of Project Lead the Way, moving from staying at the middle school, but also moving down to the upper elementaries, and then also bringing in a reading enrichment for next school year at the lower elementaries. And then we address the administrative staffing levels at the elementary school, and they sort of self-corrected at the high school, and we're going to see how that goes for the start of the school year. And then increased communication between departments for improved operations. The example I provided was the admin meetings. They used to be once a month, and they would 3+ hours, and people's heads would be rolling by the end. So we split it into instructional and operational. They ended up being no more than 90 minutes. Yeah, and people were focused on those topics. We were able to make progress on items that needed to be decided on and move forward. So that was a good change. Lead planning of critical programming for improvements. The examples were the restoration of high school busing coming this fall, and then also refining the high school GPA calculation, and then initial review of the complaint process and refined approach to all aspects. So that's coming with the board work session here next week on the 17th, sort of the next step of that process for reviewing and refining that. So that's what I have for that goal.
Okay. Anyone else have anything you'd like to add? How would we like to rate that? Mm-hmm.
Really big moves there, and especially with the administration.
Okay.
I'm okay with meets.
I mean, were you leaning more towards exceeds?
leaning toward exceeds, but
Okay. No, that's fine, but that's why we're talking about it. Chris, did you have anything you wanted to add?
This one was a little bit harder for me. I kind of had them at meets here just because they're still, it's such a broad category. It probably kind of hurts as well, but like improvement to, keep striving for more improvement.
Yeah.
I think it's close though. I mean, I don't think.
Right, and there's nothing wrong with
Yeah.
meeting the
Yep,
expectation.
meet is good. Meet is good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Number 2, engage the Huron community to strengthen connections between the district and other organizations.
So in my writing, I had my participation in Rotary, so helping with some of their events, and ultimately it created a connection for a school-affiliated international travel group to have a fundraising entity, that nonprofit status. Our partnership with Second Harvest at the November PD Day, they were able to deliver the poverty simulation for all staff, which brought in reflection and thought about what experiences our students and families are going through, and how can we better support all students, not knowing what their life story is. And Second Harvest did that at no cost to the district, and I thought it was a pretty good day. We had community partners there helping with facilitating the different stations, and people left with a deeper perspective for what many of our students go through. There was Huron Public Libraries doing a podcast of local entities and leaders, so I was invited to participate in that. The Huron Safety Committee, I attended that meeting where they were talking about traffic concerns at Woodlands, and then out of that came some changes with traffic flow. And I think once people learned the new traffic flow, it made a positive impact, and it definitely delivered a safer before and after school experience for kids, especially those walking and on bikes. We facilitated a site visit with the CEO and executive team of Project Lead the Way, and also the leadership from Ardall, so the local business, Project Lead the Way, which is the national curriculum group. And we were able to showcase our program at McCormick by Ms. Dunn, and she does an excellent job, and that's part of what encouraged that movement downwards to the 4th and 5th grade. Also organized the Blue Ribbon Committee public engagement opportunity at McCormick. The McCormick staff was excellent when they were challenged with, we need to find something for the kids to be off-campus safe. They came up with educational field trips or end of quarter incentive. I think bowling was one of them. And then also some of their sources of strength programming they did at BG Fireland. So it was a great way to invite people into the campus while still keeping our students safe. So thank you to the McCormick staff for that. And then the collaborative meetings that Mike and I both have with the county elected officials. So our annual county auditor review meeting, we met individually with the county treasurer. And then 2 weeks ago, we attended that county budget commission meeting as well. I serve as the chairperson for the Erie County Business Advisory Council, co-lead the meetings, draft the agenda, facilitate conversations. The Career Summit, I served as a presenter for that, which is related to the Business Advisory Council. I engaged members in the Greater Sandusky Partnership Huron Chamber. I was a panelist for the Huron State of the Community, one of the educational panels with the librarian and the dean of the college. And then increased communication with the broader community through opinion letters that the Sandusky Register would publish. And then we also developed and issued a community mailer that went direct mail to all residents, not just families, but all residents in our district. So that's how I felt I met those goals, or that goal.
I think too, I just want to add one thing. I think your participation in the facilities committee, I think that has afforded you, FaceTime with a lot of different community members and people groups too.
Yeah, for sure. And that committee was a good makeup of the representative of the community. So I got to interface with people who I don't see at sporting events or school events and functions like that. So it was good to meet other circles of the community. Yep.
Okay. How would we like to label this?
I had this one as exceeds myself. I think there's quite a few areas of community engagement that have gotten better, especially this last year. You know, he read it all out there.
It goes above and beyond. Is that agreeable?
Yeah, because I think it goes more than just participating in groups. Like James has taken on leadership of the Business Advisory Council, so it's taking on more responsibility with regards to some of the positioning.
All right, great. All right, number 3, support the Community Facility Committee with development of a master facility plan for implementation. I think that kind of speaks for itself. I mean, you have done that. That's kind of self-explanatory. Would everyone agree that that meets our expectation? Okay, let's move on then to leadership standard number 1. Develop a shared vision for the district. Expect, model, and support the effective use of data. Create a coherent plan with a limited number of goals. Implement the district plan and monitor the strategies for achieving the goals. Review progress and revise the strategies for achieving district goals. Communicate the district's vision, goals, and focused plan.
No, I would just say the last 2 years at each organizational meeting, we've reviewed those board priorities, which is a spin-off of the strategic plan. I know we've talked a couple years ago about with the pressing interest of facilities to do a strategic plan, it would probably all funnel attention towards facilities. So we're trying to make progress on that, and then we'll circle back to a strategic plan, like more robust program. So that could be on the near horizon here. And I think just continuing to focus on what are the priorities of our district. And I always write about it, developing a safe, welcoming, and supportive environment for students and for everyone, students and staff. There have been times this year that's been challenged, and so we have to continue to focus on that, continue to work on that. It's not something that you achieve and then you check the box, you're done. It's something that you're continually working on, continually thinking about, developing that culture, and then feeding the culture. You're either building it or it's going the other way.
So as I was looking at it and realizing and thinking like how we've talked about like a strategic plan and why we haven't gone through that process, because we know it takes a lot of time to go through like that formal process. But I was looking at the language in here about the goals, and I thought, we probably could come up with something in this year because we are doing things outside of just the capital planning. We're focused on delivering high quality education, all the priorities, and maybe it wouldn't hurt for us to set some of these goals. Like we are working towards these things, and maybe we can just go ahead and write them out. And what are a couple metrics that we know? I mean, we've got a state report card, right? Like we heard from you last month, where we were inferring, I think, where different building leaders hope to be, and then what steps are going in. Like you're doing the work, so maybe we can document it because we're doing it anyway. We're going to do a work session on student safety. That's one of our priorities here. So I think it's okay if we, for this next year, if maybe we think about some of those things. And I'm not saying going through the whole, like, we know what a big strategic planning process. And I don't know that we need to do that right now because we're, like you said, we're so engaged in it with these other huge projects. But let's figure out ways that we're documenting the good things that we are doing that do align with the vision and the values.
Yeah, no, I think that's an excellent idea. And I know Julie and I and the admin team, we talk a lot about, the instructional focuses that we have. It's that science of reading, right? So the state is pushing that. It's probably a good thing. So we're going to get behind that and push for that. And then the other would be the workforce readiness. So how are we preparing students for that next step for work, whether that is a stopover at a higher institution or directly to work. And really both those things apply to everyone pre-K through 12. I think you would say the younger grades have more focus on the science of reading and flirt with workforce readiness skills. And then the upper grades definitely are focused on that workforce readiness. And then they should be flirting with that science of reading, making sure they're engaging students with reading, comprehension, critical reading, and written expression, so that when they continue to move forward, they're ready to perform well in those venues. So, yeah, I think that's a good idea as we get ready to, in August, September, focus on the new school year. We can be looking at that stuff.
So all those things, the outcomes we're working on, the attendance and increasing attendance and addressing chronic absenteeism. And sometimes it's this first point, a safe learning environment. If kids either don't have transportation, right, we've taken action, there's a financial implication for that, but the board take action based on your recommendation to restore high school busing, to remove that barrier. But we've talked about culture, and we're going to talk about safety. So if there are things going on, these other factors, we're looking at those things too. So
sure.
And I think as far as like strategic plans go, I don't think a strategic plan has to be a huge document. I think we can have very simple goals in a strategic plan, like 3 maybe. It doesn't have to be this huge document, and we stick to those, and we progress if they've been met. When something's been met, then we can add one more thing, and just keep. It's a living plan. Great. All right. Are we what are we in agreement with as far as our thinking on this? Meets?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Is that agreeable? Okay. All right, number 2. Communications and collaboration. Demonstrate communication competence with all stakeholders. Develop, implement, and maintain effective communication systems. Communicate effectively and openly, and demonstrate a willingness to collaborate with the Board of Education, the district treasurer, and the district staff. Communicate effectively and openly, and demonstrate a willingness to collaborate with external stakeholders.
Yeah, and I would say the only one maybe that I haven't talked about yet is the communication between Mike's office and my office. We're constantly talking. We're in each other's office in a good way, at least every day, and I think that ensures that programming or initiatives that my office is trying to lead align with the funding sources for that, and his funding allocations align with the needs of the district. So, but yes,
I think you do a great job communicating with us too. I love the weekly reports and things. I think that maybe caught me off guard with the hearing from the checking out other jobs, but that's it's just,
I do still hear from certain building staff that I think they would love to see you in their buildings more. Just want that affirmation. It's not. I don't even think they feel like you're making sure they're doing their job. I think they just want you to see what they do, what they're doing, and I think if there could be maybe a schedule of some sort that on certain days you go to this building, on certain days you go to that building. It's not like you have to spend all day there. Maybe 5 or 10 minutes in a couple classrooms, and then the next time you go to some different classrooms. But I think it means a lot to the staff that the administration cares and wants to see what they're doing in their classroom, because they're proud of what they're doing in their classroom. So I think that would be something as a goal.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I think year 1 you're trying to make connections with everybody, so you're really purposeful in that, and then years 2 and now year 3 you start getting sucked into other things, right? But yeah, I do need to be more meaningful of that. And there were times, especially in the spring, where I'd be working on stuff, and then I'd look, and all of a sudden it's like 2:45. I'm like, oh, well, everyone's heading home now. So I need to be more purposeful with my time management too. As far as if there's emails and stuff I can answer after 3 o'clock, I'll do that. But I should be in the building when the kids and staff are there. I do enjoy the kids. I do enjoy the staff. So that's an easy task to accomplish.
Great. Anything else anyone has they want to offer? Okay, can we say needs? All right. Standard number 3, policies and governance. Review, develop, and recommend policies for the district. Implement and continuously assess policies and practices. Identify and respond to societal and educational trends that affect the district and community. Advocate for children and families. Model and expect professional conduct.
And on the policies part, just because I probably get a closer view of that, right? No, I think, listen, the General Assembly comes up with a way to like make life different, more complicated, change the names of things for no apparent valuable reason all the time. So I mean, it's a constant flow of having to update sometimes just words or names of things. And James does a good job of staying up to date on that. I do think, and I think it's a little early days, but going to this next year, you know, we're at kind of a crossroads here in public education. I think for policies and governance of threading the needle between compliance and culture. And I think that's going to take, you know, a lot of work and not falling into a trap of politicizing public education. It's easy to do. I don't know that it serves kids to do it because, like, you know. And so, you know, we saw a few of those issues play out over this last year. You know, the treatment for religious instruction was one of those. I think as an administrative team, and, you know, as a district, I think, you know, we were respectful of everybody's opinions. You know, and ultimately we'll comply with the laws as we need to. And so I imagine we'll see more of that in the days to come. And I think, you know, maintaining that, I'll use the word even keel again, but even keel tone of, I mean, we can all have opinions. Of course we can have opinions. But at the end of the day, like, our mission is to serve kids, and we do have to do that within the guardrails of complying with the law, regardless of our opinions. So, and James, I know in our talking to that, we don't spend a lot of time talking about like what we wish things were or weren't. It's like, here's the card. Like, you know, how do we play this in a way that, again, complies with our obligations under the law, and at the same time, you know, serves kids to the extent we have discretion to do that. So I appreciate that. I think it's an ever growing set of complexity. And you know, I appreciate that, working through that in a timely basis, because stuff can stack up on you pretty quick if we don't kind of keep knocking it down quarter by quarter.
And I would just add, for some of that housekeeping, keeping up on it, Luann, my assistant, Luann Mashari, does a nice job keeping me on task and saying, remember, you got to review that. I said, okay, thanks. So, but no, making sure, and I think really 3.4, that advocate for children and families, like doing what's best for kids, doing what's best for families, you know, providing them the services that we can provide them, and, you know, making sure policies align with that.
I feel like we've kind of been tested by fire with the advocate for children and families and model and expect professional conduct lately. I think, you know, it's a culture shift and it's a culture change. But I appreciate what you're doing to facilitate that. I do. It takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. But
Byproduct piece here. For what it's worth, I think it's been a challenging year, and I think I don't think it's gonna slow down in that regard. So,
We only get 3 jobs here, right? As a board, we manage the 2 professionals, the executives, and then we set policies, and that's our job. So I love, and we've talked about this before, but the practice of introducing, having a reading so we can talk about it, we can get informed on it, we can think about it, we can get feedback from the public before we come back and actually decide on something. I think that's really important, but the policies, the governance, it's the framework for how we're running the entire district. So I totally agree that this is a very strong suit of yours.
We know we've got a lot to do.
Yeah.
I mean, you didn't inherit a well-oiled machine necessarily, and you've got to kind of eat that elephant like one bite at a time. How do we, what do we hit first and keep moving? We have a lot to work to do on governance and policies around student safety, just making sure that we're getting better in that regard. And I think we're getting the ball rolling on that. Right. Number 4, instruction. Require district-wide use of established curriculum. Ensure the development and implementation of high-quality standards-based instruction. Set expectations for and guide the creation of a comprehensive assessment system for the district. Ensure that the district curriculum, instruction, and assessment program are designed to provide full access and opportunity to all students. Implement processes to monitor and assess the district-wide implementation of curriculum, instruction, and assessment. Provide for high-quality professional development for all staff aligned with district goals. I think you and Julie work very well together with providing curriculum and providing, curriculum that is relevant and speaks to all kinds of different kids. So I do appreciate that.
Child development stuff that you guys have been doing. I think people are actually engaged. It's not like show up because you have to be there. Well,
Yeah, I would say like a captain of a freighter, I can set that direction, but then the real people doing the work are next to me. So Julie and really Dana too with special ed services, they both do an excellent job, and they've raised the bar and they deliver so that staff have engaging professional development, which leads to designing, engaging, and meaningful lessons for the students. So thank you both.
And so we didn't inherit a well-oiled machine on the above one here. I think you did inherit a fairly well-oiled.
Yes,
I mean,
yeah.
keeping it real. Like
Yep.
you walked into, I think, something that you've been not fortunate. We've had great people that have done hard work, but it's also hard to stay on top, right? Like we talked about the rating system, which also changes like year to year. But once you get that 5-star rating, like you can only go down, right? And so that becomes its own challenge. But yeah, it definitely meets expectations in this, and I think sometimes the mark of a good leader is to recognize when the people that are doing the heavy lifting are doing it great, and just give them what they need to continue to be successful. So we appreciate them. Is everyone in agreement with meets expectation? And our last one, efficient utilization of resources. Recruit, develop, evaluate, and retain quality staff and oversee human resource management. Organize time and schedules focused on district goals. Manage and prioritize fiscal resources to align expenditures with district goals. Identify and equitably allocate materials and technology to support district goals. Oversee the district's facilities and operations. I mean, here, I think the rhythm has been a good one. And it's, a constant state of evaluating, like, in the here and now, what do we need? We know that our enrollment's changing. We know that the challenges within buildings have changed. And so everything from, consolidating down from 4 schools to 3 was a challenge over this last year, putting this board office here when we had, a fair amount of space that was just kind of like not being fully utilized. That used to be a computer lab with like actual PCs, right? Like nobody was really using that. I think that mindset has been, you know, even as like the staff, before we rinse and repeat and replace something just because we can, you know, the question has been, like, should we? And, you know, even most recently with, you know, I think with Darius leaving, it's kind of this, you know, maybe we just try for a year and see, you know, how things go before we pony up another 6 figures, you know, for us. I mean, I appreciate that because I think it's responsive to the here and now of our district. It's responsible to the community, right? Like we're not utilizing assets just because, well, that's the way we've always done it. We're in a state of business.
Yeah. And Mike is setting up like surprises that we have some of those funds that are allocated.
And I do appreciate, I mean, I know you mentioned like the opportunities in the buildings, but I think, you know, something unique that you've done that maybe not everybody knows about is, you know, transportation is a real challenge for every district, like finding people who are sober and certified to drive kids safely is no small thing. And so you need to literally jump on the school bus. And I think it's set an example to other people in the district, right? Maybe some of our part-time employees say, oh, well, if that guy's doing it and, you know, he's in charge, maybe I can help too. So I appreciate that because I think, you know, part of utilizing resources is like, I don't know, go in where you need to go and where you can make the biggest difference. And certainly getting kids to school is step number one. I would rather see them.
Do we have anything else anyone wants to say? I guess I'd just like to say I appreciate, and this is just a single incident, but you know, when I had to have a meeting with the, you know, police chief, and I asked you to come with me, and it wasn't like a plan thing. I appreciated that you didn't hesitate and you said absolutely I will be there, and I appreciate that. I appreciate that you, yeah. I mean, I appreciated that you were there to support, and it meant a lot. So I appreciate that. I really do. All right. I will be compiling a letter for both of you that will go in your personal files. I'm not going to promise that I will have that done this week, but I will get it done, and then you'll have that. And then is there new business that needs to come before the board?
Just like, I guess a question on the back to the new cycle of performance management. Like, when will we have our, like, I guess, process of setting goals and all that? Do we want to get that kind of started now so that we can come back together and agree on the next meeting?
Can we do that at our work session?
For the safety, that might be a call. Yeah, I might.
Well, I know you wanted to work on your goals. We're going to do those like August, right?
It's the start of the new year, right?
Well, yeah, start of the new year, so like August or September. You know.
I think that's fine, and I think if we set some like some district goals based on the strategic priorities, just a couple of the things, yeah, I think that would kind of cover the other bases of like what are we striving for as a district, and then your performance goals are literally your personal performance goals.
Is it something that the board would want to schedule a work session in August to talk about goals?
The only thing I throw out, just for, especially in James's life, you know, August 18th is kind of a like tax season, right, for getting kids ready. for, you know, the start of the school year and teachers ready. I wonder though if we can commit to like a little homework among ourselves so that when we go on the 18th, we're ready to go with, you know, we can do it as an agenda item like we're doing here, but we'll be prepared. These guys will be prepared. Sure. And we can plow, you know, hopefully plow through, because the goal would be to have you going into the start of that new performance cycle with a set of goals and can hit the ground running.
So can I ask, you know, if we're gonna do our homework on our own and set goals, do we wanna whittle it down to how many goals? Or how many areas are we wanting to hit with these goals? Because you don't want it to be too extensive.
Yeah, I think the three, right.
So I want to clarify, we're talking district goals, not their individual.
No, they're
goals.
working on their individual goals. Right.
Well, but I don't know that we can set
And
them
we
because I
need-
feel like they're the ones. I mean, we could guess on what are the things that are going on based on these.
No, I mean they're setting their own individual goals. We need to talk about like district.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like, provide high quality education and experiences. Like, we need their input on that, and like, what's a measure for that? What's something that is measurable, that is achievable? That, you know, like when you set SMART goals, I'd absolutely want their input on it.
So maybe by August 1st, because you can talk to us, we just can't talk back at the meeting, right? So, go ahead.
I can talk back and forth with individual board member. I can't survey a bunch of people and come in and say, here's the collective thought.
Yes.
Right.
But maybe, agreed, but maybe just so that we're on the right side of open meetings, what if you guys, with that in mind, if you want to propose your kind of individual goals, I think that would help us. I get like chicken and the egg, like the district goals, how they fit, but I think it might make more sense just given the timing and like if these guys propose some things and then we can convene on that.
Describing it earlier, it's almost like we're making a list to check off the things that we're already doing. So can we just make a list of the things that we're already doing and then see if those are our goals? You kept saying we're already doing this, so that's
Right, and I think it's more like how are we gonna measure, like, let's measure the work that we are doing, because right now it's not measured anywhere. Like, we come into a board meeting, we talk about it, there's no way for anybody, unless they're gonna read even if they read the minutes, they wouldn't necessarily have all the context for the things that are going on. There's, you know, like, do we eventually create a dashboard? I know other districts have done that, but then there's who's gonna maintain the dashboard, how are those supposed to be, you know, so just being something that's reasonable, but something that we're documenting the good work that's going on here, but also like what are the things we're working towards, and so what are those goals? And I mean, could the board set one? Maybe, but I really think it's got to be the administrators who have that best knowledge of like what's an achievable goal, and then how do we measure that? And so then they would say like, yep, we've got everybody rowing in the right direction, and this is what we're trying to hit by this date.
Okay. Do you remember when we had Vision 2020?
Oh yeah.
So there was a document that was created. And, but there was a document that was created as a living document, and it had the goals, and they were red, yellow, green, and so you knew kind of what was going on. And you know, back before most of you were on the board, we didn't go over that plan every single board meeting, but you could see it, and then you could go back and look at it and see if things have changed, what had been met, ask questions about it. So I'm wondering if we need something akin to that, that's not that extensive, but at least some kind of document that can track the progress of some of these goals. So we're not forgetting to talk about it, or we're not just saying, okay, well, here's the goals, and then tuck it away somewhere.
No, I like the, 'cause I guess
feel like I sprung this on everybody, and we need more time to think
Yeah,
about it.
well, I don't want to be cynical. I don't want to be like, well, if we're already doing it, let's set it a goal and we can back into saying that it's something that's met. I don't think that's what any of us, I mean, we want to challenge ourselves to say, like, how, but, you know, if you look at the key goals or accomplishments right now and it makes sense because these folks were new in these roles, right? Year 1, year 2, to build relationships. Okay, cool. But now we're gonna need something that's like more measurable, right? So like, what's the deliverable, not in like aspirational or generic terms, but like what's the deliverable that we're holding to? And I think that's what we need your James and Mike. That's where we want your kind of help in helping hold yourselves accountable. Is like, what deliverable can we as a board hold you to in certain really key areas. So that we can say to the community in specific terms, here's what these leaders are doing, and then here's how it's impacting this community.
Do we have to have something to say on this? I mean, what if this is like a work session, but what if it's something that we wait until like September or summer? Like let them focus on Julie's kind of thing.
Drive the teachers' professional growth documentation that they have to do for OTEX. So my ask is, if we're going to have big district goals, James and Mike's goal, that all trickles down to alignment, to have those plans ready to go by September 10th. Like, that's the building, that's when teachers are turning that stick and go. Now, we've set up in that, like, let me just use literacy because everybody's got a literacy goal for each building. And it's typically 10% growth to meet the 80% proficiency rate, right? And then you figure out why you're not meeting it or you are meeting it, and then you double back that work. So if I'm understanding the conversation correctly, are you thinking it gets to that level in alignment? Because then if so, September 10th comes real quickly.
I think that would be ideal. We might be a little off on timing, right? Like that might be a goal for us for next year, starting earlier. But it would be helpful if can we see whatever cycle that was last year, just so that we can start to back into that. Maybe not until next year, but I think that makes, man, if you're talking about alignment, if we could do that, that would be ideal, right?
Selfishly speaking, absolutely from my viewpoint, but
So at least on one event, right? We know that beyond just curriculum, there's other things we have to do too.
Like chat,
Right.
use the format. We have fee structure, district leadership structure that we're implementing this year, but we have the new cycle starts next year, so that would get us on cycle with the state too, to say on the academic side of the house, this is just in the one plan. Again, it's a state thing that has our federal funding and all the things aligned to it that says, what are your goals for this year? I have to put in the magic words, and then I have to go through building principles and say, how did we do? Did we meet it? Did we not meet it? So like this year, science and reading training, everybody got it in, everybody got it done. Great, we checked that box. Now what are we doing with it? Like, are we implementing the things? Are we doing the things? So what then I have to go back and say is, like, what's our adult implementation rate of the science of reading? Now, I'd like to report it's 100%, but I'll be real, it's probably not, because it looks different in different classrooms in different places. It looks different in preschool than it looks in Donwood's math class, right? So those are the things that we'll be working through this year. So their plans are due early September for their principals for their professional goals that are based on.
Those are for in that example with literacy, is that showing up in the state report card somewhere, or only for like a limited snapshot at certain grades?
It is showing up, but it also is like controlling for variables is also tough. So can I pinpoint this one exact practice as the reason why we're doing the thing?
Yeah.
No, you have to come at it from the fidelity of the thing, right?
Right.
So that's a constant that we're always refining. The professional development James is talking about, right? So
maybe one of the action steps in literacy is to continue to do Orton Gillingham training for our individually hired people. Well, we didn't get it done last year because we couldn't find anybody offering. This year we have a friend over in Oregon City Schools who's like, hey, I got open seats, and we're sending people. So that adult invitation is going to look a little better this year than it did last year. Things like that. But that's an action step related to our literacy goal.
I guess what I'm thinking at a board level or district level would not be as granular as an individual plan for individual grades or individual teachers. Like, we know that those things are serving this, because the goal is for successful outcomes for the children. We know they need to be able to read. They need to hit certain literacy marks. That's us providing a high quality education. So I think what I'm envisioning, so it's kind of, I look at these 4 points: ensure a safe learning environment. What are we doing? What are we actively working on? What is a measure? How do we measure that right now? And what's a measure by which we want to improve that outcome? So we're striving towards, we're working on that to improve it, to improve it, to improve it.
So again, not to be, I didn't mean to like be flippant earlier. Like when you were saying those broader goals earlier, you were rattling off examples, and I think we can take those examples and then set goals under those examples. That's what I was getting at.
I still want their input on it.
Because I think this is a work session.
Let's turn it into it.
Yeah. I know. Again, my apologies.
No, that's
on,
But I think this topic is a work session topic. I agree. And obviously, it probably isn't going to happen in August, but it could be a September, October work session topic.
Yeah.
That we could get together and just hash out goals and things like that. So I think that'd be a good.
And I would say there's resources that already exist. So in my last district, we were doing work with Brave Ed, which is a national school accountability system. John Tanner was the creator of it, and there's a lot of research behind it and everything, but ultimately he comes down to the development of 7 pillars for educational benefits. So it was developed through the voice of parents, student, community members, responding to 3 simple but powerful questions. Those questions are: what do you expect from schools in exchange for your trust? What are your hopes and dreams for your child's education? And what benefits should schools be responsible for providing? And so through that, they've developed these 7 pillars, which is student learning, student readiness, engaged, well-rounded students, well-being, effective adults, community connections, and effective systems. And so going through his process, what they do is they create a survey with these 3 to 7 indicators underneath each of those pillars. And they ask the survey respondents, are we doing this well? Is this something we need to do better? And then the survey generates out, so not me and Julie and Mike deciding, not even the 5 board members deciding, but the community who completes the survey helps identify what are those indicators that we're doing really well, and we should keep doing that, and what are those that we need to improve upon and we need to focus on improving upon. And then year after year, you have that survey completed with the idea that the community is telling us, hey, you're still doing these things really well, and these things you've made improvement on. You're still not there, but you're making improvement, right? So that's a whole sort of resource that's available. We could try to steal some of it, but we probably won't do it well.
So was this a presentation or a book or a workshop?
He has books, he has white papers, he does presentations. It's there's like a whole. There are districts that say we are with Brave Ed and we are setting those educational benefits for our district. Because while the state accountability system does its thing and it reports out and everyone looks at that, when someone in the local community says, yeah, I get that, but what is this district doing that benefits my kids, benefits my family, benefits my community? They would look at these metrics in order to share, and you would share over time how you're making progress, because you're not perfect in everything.
Like a stakeholder engagement survey, we set a baseline.
Yeah.
Like an employee.
I mean, you can make it as big or as little as you want as far as your involvement with it, but
That's interesting.
Yeah, it's pretty cool stuff. So.
Well, I think we have some good work session topics for the fall.
Yeah.
And maybe James, in before September, October, maybe you could get the board some more information regarding grade ed.
Sure.
So for our work session, I know we kind of talked about like using a different.
Why? I think that work session is gonna be it's gonna be guided through what Weston heard.
Yeah,
Through the legal
facilitated.
counsel, so no, I think you just need to come.
That's what I thought, but I didn't make an assumption.
Yeah, there's nothing.
Yeah, and I think through that conversation, it'll identify the immediate things we need to take action on, because that's going to drive the facilitated presentation to all staff at the convocation day. So there's several things we're going to talk about. I think through the conversation, we'll tease out what are we seeing as the high priority, and then what is the continued conversation after that staff PD day. So, yep.
We are going to enter executive session. I don't have the statement, since if you wanna read it, that would be great. We're going to go into executive session for the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, compensation of an employee or official, investigation of charges or complaints against an employee, official, or student unless such individual requests a public hearing. The board will not hold an executive session for the discipline of one of its members for conduct related to the performance of his or her official duties, or for his or her removal from office. So we need a motion for executive session.
Second.
Mrs. Henners, Mr. Rager,
Yes.
Dr. LaFay, Mrs. Hartley,
Yes.
Mrs. Mask.
Yes, thank you. I need